Welcome to Overanalyzing Fame Train Book 4, also known as the final season. After 3 long episodes, we have finally made it, the right episode number for the right season. And let's just not bring up the fact that my voice quality changes in every single one of these videos, okay? Throughout this series, we have been analyzing the show, pointing out hidden details, small moments, slight inconsistencies, and giving you all my in-depth thoughts along the way from someone who's probably rewatched this show more times than anyone on the actual team has, and definitely spent more time thinking about it than they ever intended. With the release of this video, you can officially watch the entire Overanalyzing and Fame Train series in the playlist linked in the card above, so check those episodes out after this if you haven't already. I'll also link the trailer I made for the show if that interests you as well. Now this episode is going to be jam-packed as is, so why don't we just jump straight into it with the twin tapes. This is about to be a long one.
This is how it always begins.
Here, one states that all tapes on the train start the same way with the birth of the passenger. However, this statement will later be proven false as Jesse's second tape will start on the train, leaving one to remark,
A tape has never started on the train before.
One tidbit I noticed is that last season ends with a death while this season starts with a birth. 2 actually. I'll no doubt be bringing this up a lot in this video, but the show uses the colors of blue and red to represent Min and Ryan respectively, and we already see this in action with how their families share the same color scheme. This continues through the flashbacks as well.
Looks like we got a couple more PL kids on our hands, huh?
Ryan's dad calls them PL kids, short for Powell Lake kids, which is where the 2 families are from. The region is in British Columbia, Canada, and because it's surrounded by steep mountains, much of the area is accessed by ferry, which Ryan's dad mentions. We will later see this ferry when Ryan returns home. These kids got some hunter hair.
Are you sure you don't want your viola instead of that toy?
It's a proper instrument.
Min's parents wanting him to practice a proper instrument is a clear sign of their expectations for Min and how they want him to do things the proper way. Ryan wears face paint which resembles the look of David Bowie, a famous rock musician known for his distinctive style and stage persona who was at the height of his popularity around this time. This microphone shouldn't have feedback or be working because it has no cord. It reminds me of the turtle from the Unfinished car who had a phone but no cord attached. They use this imagery a couple times this season when the boys start off screen but then come face to face. They use it in a variety of ways too. I'll try not to point out every little detail that shows off the boys' personalities, but it's the first episode and is too well done to pass up. We can see Min sitting with a straight posture, feet on the floor. He's also wearing conservative clothing and socks, whereas in comparison, Ryan is lounging on the chair with his feet barefoot and kicked up.
Says you have to be in grade 12.
Where on this flyer does it say you have to be in grade 12? We're just lying.
Mingy, your viola teacher is here.
Nice reference to how despite playing the mini-synth, Min still partially did what his parents wanted in taking viola lessons like they suggested when they were kids. Also, why is his teacher arriving at 4:08? What a weird time to show up. And if you want to know how I knew which was the minute hand and which was the hour hand,
But the two are technically the same way, so instead we have to go off of what is realistic. If we pretend the upper hand is the hour hand, then the minute hand would have to be relatively close to pointing straight up, since the hour hand is currently close to 3 o'clock. But this obviously isn't the case. However, if we pretend the lower hand is the hour hand, which is currently sitting in between 4 and 5, but closer to 4, then the minute hand being around 8 minutes past the hour would make a lot more sense.
got all that? Good. So we have Powell Lake High School and we have Powell Lake Secondary School. Shouldn't those basically be the same thing? I don't know, I'm not Canadian. You know, I'm kinda traumatized from stages after the last season. The Chicken Choice Judy shirt being mainly highlighted in purple is to show how this band is a mixture of both Min and Ryan, making the color purple which is a mixture of their 2 colors of blue and red. When Ryan tells Min about his plan to travel the country, there's a sign behind them reading Bon Voyage, which obviously means have a good trip. I view this as referencing the road trip Ryan is currently suggesting to Min. No way, the cardboard people are back and we aren't even on the train! Despite the hole between the curtain and the wall being basically non-existent, we somehow get this clear shot through to the announcer. Now before we continue, I can't promise this entire next section won't just be me glazing the split screen decision. Furthermore, I wanted to point out that where the screen splits is not always the same, with it changing in placement and thickness constantly throughout the different clips we see. I kinda wish they could have stuck with it being stationary in the center, because once you start slowing it down and paying close attention, it becomes a bit distracting. Also, Min and Ryan's signature colors return as a way to indicate which side is whose, so you'll see that throughout the scenes, Min's side is mostly entirely blue toned, while Ryan's leans more red toned.
Some people say a smile is just an upside down frown, but me, I know the truth.
What's the truth, Ryan? I wanna know now. Man, this is the Lake situation all over again. Ryan's van has a bumper sticker for class of 1985, giving us the year the season takes place in, meaning we are a full 34 years before Tulip will board the train and the main events of the show will start. This also indicates to us the year Amelia took over, which will happen at the end of the season, meaning she too has been ruling the train for the same 34 years. One of the coolest visuals from this section in my opinion, the pull into the road is crazy clean. We also learn from this map when it pulls back that there are no Dumpty's diners in Minnesota. Sorry Tulip. This scene is probably the most egregious point where the split is heavily not in the center. Min is doing university applications over the summer when they should have been due around December of the past year. He is way behind. Also, the college he is applying to, Haldousie University, is a spoof off the real college of Dalhousie University, located in Nova Scotia. The paper also loses all detail when transitioning to the next shot. I love this detail of Min and Ryan playing together despite being apart, shows how in tune they are regardless of the distance. Then after, we get this look from them both showing how they miss each other.
sorry.
As Min gets his university applications accepted and Ryan gets dumped, Min's sigh of relief almost translates to Ryan's groan on the other side, though we can't exactly hear Ryan as he is in his dad's van.
My dad's van.
This photo from their childhood perfectly depicts Ryan's personality as he is shown to be reckless with a bandage on his leg and missing a tooth. Obviously, we have covered the whole red is Ryan, blue is Min color motif, but when they both reach for the phone, their phones are the other's color as a way to visually show us, if it wasn't clear already, who they were wanting to call at that moment. It also is the only time throughout this main section that the two opposing colors can be seen prominently on each other's sides. They changed the closed sign between years. It originally says, "Sorry, we're closed." We end the split screen with this incredible scene of the two reuniting. They see each other through the glass, and as they do, their colors begin to mingle. Min is tinted in red from Ryan's side, while Ryan is tinted in blue from Min's. This also flips our perspective, as for the last several minutes they have been contained to their separate sides. And then when Ryan re-enters Min's life, their sides merge and he steps into the blue frame and the split screen ends. Oh, it's so good. Angela Kim, I hope you know that you are great at what you do. The shot of Ryan messing with the portrait has always looked off to me. The depth perception is definitely wrong. Another parallel in this episode is when Ryan uses a droplet of water to fall onto the paper wrapper of a straw. Really shows how much they've changed based on Min's more mellow reaction.
Just like we talked about in this booth.
It was that booth.
Are you sure it was that one?
Yep, that booth.
This shot of the booth is another parallel to earlier, but Min is actually wrong here. Confidently wrong, actually, which I think sums up his character quite perfectly. He always has to think he's right, but Ryan's right when he says that they were indeed sitting in the same booth back in the day.
I got into uni. I'm gonna major in finance with an emphasis on risk assessment.
He really shouldn't be minoring in risk assessment after the decision he makes in a couple minutes, because boarding a magic train that appears in front of you seems obviously risky to me. The man that calls from his window is actually Min's boss at Dumpty's. He is labeled Horace in the subtitles. How exactly did Min catch up to Ryan here when Ryan obviously got a major head start? Min has some random magic going on. It looks like they are coming from the right, but shouldn't they be coming from the door in the back considering they are moving through train cars? The lightning bolt of David Bowie returns here to entice the boys aboard. What I can't fathom is why Ryan threw the keys in and went through. Doubly can't fathom why Min would follow. These choices have always baffled me, as what sane person would see this and think, I'ma hop aboard? At least the train tried to trick people who were at a weak place emotionally before, but the train is getting lazy now.
You're getting lazy, train.
We find that we have been watching Min and Ryan's tape this entire time, but how were they able to extract combined tape from both their heads? It's not like they share a brain to pull the tape from. Maybe the porter just put two tapes in his mouth and that somehow worked? I don't know. Here we meet young Amelia and one, singular. Actually, well, they're both single. Sorry, low blow. The scene shows how Amelia had enough trust with one to be able to freely move about the passenger preparation car with limited restrictions, in her normal clothes no less. She is still forced to wear those same boots though. One is also a single entity here known as One, which means Amelia hadn't split him into two yet. I love the shot of the porter just contorting Min and Ryan's bodies to fit the pod, which is only meant for one. It knows what it's doing.
My algorithms are designed to account for a statistical probability that anything can happen on the train.
Anything?
Even if the odds are highly improbable, given enough time, yes, anything.
Ryan, Min, look at what you did. I blame you for this snowballing out of control. Too much blood's on your hands. But seriously, it is really sweet that Min and Ryan's existence is what sparked Amelia's aspirations to take control of the train and get Ulrich back.
But once these two arrive at their seat...
One mentions the idea of seats again, which was first mentioned all the way back in Season 1, Episode 3 by the steward.
Return to your seat.
I'm assuming this is just code for their seats being their first train car, however this could also have a deeper meaning depending on what one and thus the train's original purpose was. One stating,
Then they die here.
shows this version's lack of care for the passengers and how he simply is doing a job. He has no emotion, which is far from the one we know in the current day. Also, the show once again hides the number car's door from us. It's like they don't want us seeing it. Owen Dennis, you will not stop me theory crafting. Man, I can just imagine how cool it would be to get a Season 5 focused on Amelia and get the scene again, only for the boys to blast off down the train and us stay with Amelia to further her story. You'd be able to think that in just a few moments, Min and Ryan will be waking up in the iceberg car. Yep, let's do this one last time. More like the iceberg volcano forest jungle desert car, still less of a mouthful than the canyon of the golden winged snakes car, or even just the evolution car would be more accurate. While the boys are still knocked out, we can hear the pod travel across the train, drop them off in the iceberg car, splash across the water, and then explode for whatever reason. This reminds me of the steward at the end of the season who jumped and then explodes. But why would Amelia and one have the pods exploding? We see that unlike the stewards in which only one exists in the present day, there are still thousands of pods all sitting intact in the passenger preparation car. Now that could be a blasting off sound, but Prime Video labels it as exploding. Interestingly, it's also the same beeping the pod made in Season 2 when it was damaged and had to return to the passenger preparation car.
Please Please return to your pod.
Come on, Ellen Dracula.
So this could possibly be the pod's general returning sound. So like, who undresses the passengers when they board the train? We technically never saw what happens to passengers in between boarding and then being put in the passenger farm, but do porters do it? Is there another type of machine that lives in the number car? Someone has to do it and put all their stuff into bins. We get introduced to the boots, which are a part of the train's uniform. These boots are forced to stay on, as confirmed by Kez saying,
Yeah, those don't come off.
I'll go into why I think this is a bit later once it becomes more relevant. Speaking of outfits, however, these same outfits are the ones all passengers aboard the train at this time had to wear, as we can assume from the Amelia Book 5 promotional artwork. It is also the exact same outfit minus the boots that she wears in her Season 3 appearance. It seems almost standard issue for everyone on the train. I also assume this is because one didn't view them as individuals, as Amelia states later that giving them their clothes back gives them more individuality. The boys are actually missing their numbers throughout the scene up until they realize there are numbers on their hands. If I was trying to figure out a mysterious device, my first instinct would not be to take it off the wall. You can actually see the hole the aerostat was in before Ryan ripped it off the wall switch with the arrows too. Ming clearly turned the dial to be in the red, but when we see it again it shows it being back in the blue.
Too far in the future!
So if Ryan understands that red means future and blue means past, then shouldn't he instantly realize that putting the dial in the obvious middle is the present and thus where it's safe?
We are the one true thought. We know all.
Okay, one true thought. How is a fame train supposed to end? The desert version of this car is used as the poster for this season. On the poster we can see the car glitching with the steward's tentacles in the background like we will see occur in episode 5. Despite putting the dial in the center, this is definitely not the present. This 100% looks like the future. It is accompanied by futuristic music as well. If sentient beings like the Parker denizens change with the car, and other beings not native to the car like the boys and Kez still stay in the world even when it switches between eras, where is everyone else? No matter if they are native or not native to the car, every being should still be alive somewhere and switching with the eras, but they are nowhere to be found. Except we see that there are beings living in this car, like this flying animal, rhinoceros, and sloth, so why don't they switch when the car switches? As the boys say,
Yeah, we're fine.
We're great.
the blocking has them looking away from each other, signaling that what they are saying isn't true, and they are actually a lot more disconnected than they want Kez to believe.
Let's not stress about dials or trains or numbers or anything. Let me just take you back to my place and we can chill.
Keep in mind that Kez here immediately brings up just ignoring the problem entirely and chilling at her place, literally minutes after meeting Ryan and Min. I'll have a point to make about this at the end.
Cause like honestly, in my opinion, sometimes numbers are a part of the problem, not the solution, you know?
Kez's line here relates heavily to this season in particular, as Min and Ryan focus too much on their numbers and how they barely change instead of focusing on the problem that affects their numbers. The grasshopper was actually seen in Book 3 on the tin can Hazel grabs, directly referencing Samantha's past in the old West car. One really interesting detail is that Robbie Damon, the voice of Jesse, actually voices some of the bugs this episode, and the story behind it is kinda wild. In an interview, Owen Dennis mentions how he fought hard for Jesse's Native American nationality during the production of Book 2, but the network pushed back on this. Eventually, Owen was able to have Robbie come back and record the briefest of lines about Jesse going to a powwow in episode 6 of the second season, but this had to happen during post-production. Well, it turns out at the same time before season 2 even aired, they were already doing the voice work for this current season, Book 4, so they had him record a couple lines for this episode. I'll leave a link to the interview in the description if anyone is interested in hearing the full thing from the creator's mouth. And here is Samantha. I do have to say this is probably her most underwhelming appearance across the 4 seasons, but there are still things we can pick apart to piece together her journey. If Samantha had met Randall in the past, he would have been an excellent business partner for her tea shop. It could have literally been the ingredient of water.
I got these like last week.
Kez mentions the tea she got last week, but if this car was only one away from the iceberg car, then this act of not paying for the tea should have been like the other day, not an entire week ago. Also, Samantha said that she didn't pay for the tea, which could be brushed off, but we later find out that Kez carries around money, so she basically just stole from Samantha. But then that gets me wondering if money is universal across the train. You'd assume not.
A buy one, get one free passenger? That's a curiosity worth saving.
The fact that Samantha only mentions the boys' numbers as curiosities and doesn't even mention one or Amelia, as well as the fact that she seems to not have her shuttlecraft at this moment in time, indicates to me that she hasn't met them both yet in the timeline. I have an entire theory about Amelia's journey and where the cat fits into it, but since that is a long-winded discussion, I think I might save that for another video. So Samantha sells them out for a bounty, but earlier in season 1 she states,
Money doesn't have much value to me.
I understand this is in the past and she most likely lives in this car so she needs money, but it is interesting how she changed her tune later in life. Considering Kez keeps all of her stuff in her mouth, does that mean when the bugs detained her, they had to shove their hands and rip out whatever she kept in her body? Kinda inhumane when you think about it. If the sheriff is Judge Morpho, then how does he become the sheriff again when transforming? In the real world, butterflies can't reverse metamorphosis, and there's absolutely no way this is the first time he becomes the judge because other denizens mention him throughout the episode. The lines,
A bounty for turning you in, and a favor for helping you out.
and then,
And if you want to live long enough to pay me back, I suggest you get moving.
have always felt weird to me. They don't impact the season at all after this, and would make no sense for these lines to be included if Samantha never returned to deliver on the favor. So I believe these lines would have come back in book 5, possibly with Kez helping the cat or something along those lines. Once again, this is an idea I'll expand upon in my video on the potential book 5 plot. And we never see her again. It's a nice detail that the first scene we get of the two boys bonding after reuniting is bathed in this deep purple coloring, which is a mixture of their two colors of red and blue, showing how they are coming to understand each other. This is met with their numbers decreasing. This episode is the only main title card we see the entire season which has a straightforward exit door. All the rest either aren't shown or have a gimmick attached to them. Can we skip this episode? No? You're really gonna make me analyze it? Fine. Well, I mean, you can skip it. I can't. The beginning of this episode starts a little weird with Min and Ryan already in the pig baby car and already wearing notebook outfits over their jumpsuits. But what is the point when the outfits immediately have to come off when they are forced to squeeze through the cabinets? Feels like a scene could have been cut here to explain all that. So, like, did Pig Baby come from the ground? How did his chair just appear from nowhere? J.K. Simmons makes a surprise appearance as the infamous Pig Baby. You know, the same guy who voices characters like Omni-Man, Tenzin, Stanford Pines, Klaus, even the Yellow M&M. And out of every iconic voice performance J.K. Simmons has given over the years, Pig Baby is definitely a role that he voices.
Kiss me, I'm a chef's hat.
Could be a reference to the Kiss the Chef apron Ulrich wore in the flashbacks, as well as the Kiss the Shelf apron the Turtle wore in Book 3. Stay with me here. If Kez had to go through the car to anger Pig Baby and microwave the butter, then she would have to go through the entry door and exit doors. But here she says,
Dudes, just make the treat and we'll look for the door later.
meaning that for some reason she doesn't know where the exit door is. But unless Pig Baby ate the door within the last week between when Kez last visited, she should know exactly where it is. It's an interesting concept for a car designed around low gravity to be set in a world that's far larger in scale than its passengers. Unfortunately, it has to come with a massive Pig Baby, and it's got some unfinished car gravity going on here. The recipes Min reads are all pictured on the page. Nice touch. They are also real post-war American recipes. Second nice touch. This is some funky montage music.
But we took a pretty big swing.
Which was the only one left after a tragic grease fire.
How could the books almost all be burned if they were all the way up there on the shelf? Maybe that's where the cow creamer decided to move them after the fire destroyed almost all of them. If the women's liberation movement was started in the late 1960s, then how did Kez hear about it being on the train?
I am not about to turn the clock back on women's lib, man.
The only way it could even be possible is if one of the guests living in the castle told her, which I guess isn't unheard of. Good job, Infinity Drain.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's still butter, right?
Yeah, it's still butter, but that doesn't make it good. I don't think melted butter that's been sitting in a microwave for who knows how long would be okay to eat.
Oh, your numbers went down. Cool.
These episodes are more fun once you know Kez wants their numbers to stay high, because her lack of excitement when their numbers go down makes a lot more sense with the full context. If anything, she's upset because her plan of keeping them here isn't working out anymore.
Yes! So you're the one who was meant to be on the train, not me.
Ah, we were so close, man. Guess we're gonna have to deal with this insufferable attitude for the next 11 minutes. Now do not exaggerate when I say it is some of the most excruciating 11 minutes in this entire show. I should note that this car where the boys regress in their problem is colored green, which is located directly opposite of both colors on the color wheel. So whereas purple is used to represent them coming together, green is used to show them growing apart. I call BS, no way are those brownies good. Pig Baby's palate must be whacked despite not liking post-war American food.
You will keep cooking until Pig Baby dies, and you'll be the new Pig Baby.
This doesn't make sense. How would Ryan and Min be the new Pig Babies when they are clearly human and human-sized? Also, with the cow creamer bringing up the idea of Pig Baby eventually dying, we are met with the prospect that denizens can age. I guess it would make sense, just something that was never really brought up in the show up until now. So like, how did they open the door from inside Pig Baby's... You know what, I'm not even gonna ask. I should just be glad we're out of this car. Kez saying...
Like we just learned, don't push yourself, man, because it's not about the death of something. It's about the whatever.
Has a bit of a double meaning. To the boys, she's just saying it's about the journey, not the destination, obviously. But for Kez, getting to Morgan, the destination, is actually the whole point for her, because it means she could potentially fix what happened with Jeremy. Also, this is another moment where we see a little bit of Kez's true motivations as she dismisses numbers and tells the boys not to push themselves. I'm gonna come back to this at the end, I promise. If you made it through the dreaded Pig Baby episode with me, congrats, we soldiered on together. And if you skip past it, you haven't been through the trenches with me. You should be grateful I include timestamps. This opening car bears a strong resemblance to the Toad car from Season 2, just switch the Toad with the shape toy. Also, the train totally knew what they were doing putting this car in the boys' path. They're just torturing Ryan for no good reason. Kez pulls a snack out of her mouth called ketchups, obviously a mix between ketchup and chips.
This is like a baby puzzle. I saw this when I was baby.
Another mention of denizens aging by Kez. Am I missing something, or is this just crazy how it's been mentioned twice in the last 2 minutes of the show? Guys, go now, Nigel isn't there. Neither is the line for whatever reason. An early clue that the people staying in line are dead is the conveyor belt under their feet moving them along. I mean, there's also the obvious fact that none of them are moving, but that's neither here nor there. Hey, the donut holder's back.
Do your corpse bodies do that too?
Yes, Kez.
I mean, would they? Yes, we are squishy, but we wouldn't just fold when being squished by some hands, especially not into a perfect square like what happens here. Yeah, so this idea of digging under doesn't make much sense. Even if you could possibly dig under the foundation of this building, you would expect a floor to be meeting you on the other side. And look, what do you know? The neck detailing on Ryan's suit disappears here. That is a big hole to dig with just your hands. Maybe Ryan does have big muscles after all. Do they ever explain why the pipes are filled with this mysterious blue gel that can also turn solid? Because I can't think of an explanation for it besides plot convenience.
If you just do everything you're supposed to do, you'll eventually end up where you need to be.
This is a great moment in understanding Min's character. It really gives us a good look at his mindset and why he follows everything his parents wanted him to do. They ingrained their belief system into him.
Maybe one of the portals will lead us inside the tower.
I know he is grasping at straws, but once again, Ryan's plan makes no sense. There's no possible way a portal leads inside the building. Every portal we see is linked to the queue. So multiple things here. 1. Why is Ryan running through portals with his eyes closed, especially over huge ledges? 2. Why does he not stop himself running before hitting the end of the floating island? He just keeps running for whatever reason, even when realizing he passed the portal. 3. How does Min get here in time to save Ryan? His current attitude would mean he wouldn't have been following Ryan because he wants to prove a lesson, yet he's here to catch him within 9 seconds. He would have already had to be just beyond Ryan for this to make sense, but he clearly wouldn't be. This all just feels off to me. I guess there is already a set precedent with Min being able to magically catch up to Ryan. Kez just gives up helping pull Ryan from his death. She is such a faker, though I doubt she was even helping much anyway. I feel like throughout this episode, their numbers should be going higher than just 202. Min is actively succumbing deeper into his problem of arrogance, while Ryan is becoming more impulsive. If anything, they are both making zero progress with understanding each other, yet their numbers never go above 202, even when Min is screaming at Ryan. Min backs up towards the edge of the island here, but then he's just magically backing up into the line of suited people. That is not a human skeleton. Makes me wonder what these creatures actually are underneath the suits if not human.
They're all dead?
And look, yet another mention of death in regards to denizens. What is going on? You both didn't notice the red vines growing on the back of the suits to indicate they haven't moved? Before Min looks into the mask's reflection, his hair is fully in place, but in his reflection it shows a strand of hair hanging down. Then when we cut back to facing him, his hair is back to normal again.
You can mess up even if you stand still. It's my number 2.
Thank God, I have had enough of condescending Min. Now all we have to deal with is non-committal Min. I think frustrations with this first half of the season partially stems from Min's overly condescending attitude mixed with the fact that even when he realizes, there's no sign of him actually taking accountability for his behavior, which kind of just leaves this part being slightly unbearable with no real satisfaction for the audience at the end. I understand Min can't apologize because of the character work they're doing, but man do I wish he did. Here, I'll fix it.
Ryan, I'm sorry. I'll get you a new plate.
Wait, what? Also doesn't help that their numbers jump back to 202, which feels like no progress is being made at all. A question I have regarding the denizens of this car, which relates back to a question I had about the Lucky Cat Carnival in a prior video, is whether the denizens live anywhere in this car or if their sole purpose in life is to sit in line and get into the party. Min and Ryan pretend like they are coming from a meteor to get inside, but do people here actually live like that? Seems like the only thing that exists out here are portals and lines. I mean, we know the bouncer has a family.
Oh my goodness, it's Chicken Choice Judy!
From what we've seen, the boys have never mentioned their band's name while on the train, so Kez knowing its unusual name of Chicken Choice Judy could be considered an inconsistency. Where's the skeleton's head? The electricity that occurs when the boots are activated is not the same electricity that the pods have. Here it is purple, which does stay consistent from the past season. One detail I forgot to mention in my video on season 3 is whenever Simon uses the boots, he has to click the button on the side to activate them, leading to these moments like we saw in episode 2 of him clutching the catch with grace. This visual is the same with the dot on the side, meaning their magnetism property is currently being activated. Kez says,
They shouldn't, lock until you...
but then freezes, which cuts her off. This is where my theory comes in about the boots and their purpose. We see how one of their main jobs is to keep the passengers locked in place during train-wide announcements, which we know have happened before based on Kez's line in the next episode saying that she brought gifts this time. But I believe another purpose of the boots was to trap passengers on the train and not allow them to step into the wasteland. It is sort of similar to the denizens and how they are tied down to the confines of the train, and any attempt to travel into the wasteland is futile as the train pulls them back. Maybe the boots work in a similar way where one doesn't want passengers journeying where they aren't supposed to. We see the dangers that are out there for the passengers like with Tulip, and how the golems can kill passengers if they aren't careful. So in all, I believe Kez was going to say they shouldn't lock until you step off the train, but wasn't able to finish. Of course, another explanation could be her wanting to say they shouldn't lock until the steward arrives, but that's less exciting of an answer. The steward uses what appears to be the same type of control panel that Tulip modified at the end of Book 1. However, those panels were specifically by the exit door, whereas this one is not. Maybe there are multiple panels throughout the cars for the steward to access at any time. Having access to this panel is what seems to be freezing this car in place, as opposed to that just being an ability the steward or one specifically has. I don't know if this has any effect on anything, but it also seems like the steward is coming through the door which leads to the party rather than the door that leads back outside. We're back to some speculating. So it's pretty clear Amelia was the one to convince one to make the change of giving the passengers their stuff back, as she says,
That's a good thing. Now that we include individuals.
I would imagine a chunk of Book 5's plot was Amelia trying to humanize one and showing him how passengers are more than just their numbers. However, I do wonder what Amelia was going to say afterwards, as we are left with an incomplete sentence. I bet we would have gotten the same scene from her perspective next season, in which she would have obviously continued her discussion with one. It seems as though it was all about letting the passengers be themselves instead of just the same tracksuit and boots. Although it is notable that one doesn't let them take off their boots here, as he still wants some control over them.
Ooh, neat. She left presents this time.
Once again, we return to the line from Kez indicating that the steward has visited before, no doubt being a direct result of Amelia convincing one to make more changes to the train. However, I wonder what those changes could have been which would have required the steward to show up in the cars. One idea I had was the steward getting rid of the pause or possibly the explanation video, as despite being present in the current day during 1-1's new rule over the train, Min and Ryan never got an explanation. I just can't imagine why they would want to get rid of the explanation video.
You brought your mini synth? It's just a toy.
Min is repeating his parents' similar mindset from episode 1. You'd think this party would be a little more anxious after just being frozen by the steward moments earlier. I guess not. We party on! If you look in the background, you can make out that all the photos in the party have images of the suit denizens. It isn't shown to us that the gravity in this car is whack, but then how else would this tower of couches be standing like this? Same goes for the multiple spacemen who are defying the laws of gravity. Maybe it's just an ability of their species. This car has a facade. You can clearly see that there's just a front row of people with no one else behind them. And I don't know what's going on here.
Medium friends? Meet best friends.
Well guys, Kez just downgraded you to medium friends. And can I just say that Kez's best friends are some of my least favorite denizens in the entire show. Besides their personalities, which is meant to be dislikable, they all just kind of have ugly designs. Driveway, aka Zuby, is a rock from the Hey Ho Wo car though. Wonder how he got here. Speaking of how they got here, how did Morgan ever make it to one of these parties? If she's a sentient castle, then she isn't fitting through these doorways. She's stuck to the ground. Never really understood this line. Originally, this episode was supposed to include an Alan Dracula cameo. Min was supposed to try changing under a table, but then the table would have transformed into Alan Dracula. It's a shame it was cut. It would have been a nice through line between seasons, and it would have been hilarious. It also leads to this line only a scene later.
There was a bathroom to change in this whole time?
Owen Dennis once joked that there was only one bathroom on the Infinity train. Well, I guess we found it. Except he may be lying because I spotted one in the mall car. Okay, this is definitely the same grape denizen, just younger. Really fun minuscule detail. When we stare at Min after finding the Dumpty keys in his pocket, we never actually see Ryan go up the stairs, except that seems to be the only way back up to the main level where the stage is located, and it would be weird if he was just standing at the bottom of the stairs waiting for Min, who is obviously having second thoughts after seeing those keys. Remember earlier when I talked about how the show uses the color green to represent the relationship regressing? Well, that same logic applies here. Here in the bathroom is when the boys come to an understanding of each other, and just like the purple sky in the Old West car, that is represented here in a purple bathroom with red, blue, and prominently purple curtains. This bathroom shrank a ton in this one shot. It's a nice thought that Ryan brings the Chicken Shores Judy shirt with him to all of his shows. Though with it not being in Ryan's guitar case when entering the train and Ryan not carrying a bag with him, I'm almost certain he must have just been wearing it on his body when meeting with Min, which is a bit odd. I love how the episode slows down here and simply lets Min and Ryan communicate. Min opens up about his fears surrounding both the train and the band, explaining that realistically there is no one in the music industry who looks like them or came from the background like theirs, especially at this point in history. Because of that, he seriously doubts whether they can actually make it. This topic about being Asian in a band in the 1980s is something they didn't have to include, but I'm so glad they did. It adds another layer to Min's character and you can really understand his reservations. He was brought up to do things the right way by his parents, and to him that meant staying in his expected lane. Brian on the other hand will do anything to be noticed, so he's much more willing to chase this idea of grandeur he pictures for both himself and Min. This bathroom 100% just grew in size. What is up with the size-changing bathroom? Never mind the talking chicken and beehive outside, this is the weirdest thing going on in this car. But seriously, usually the tub seems to be on the wall, but here there's a noticeable gap between it and the wall. Also, that is some long toilet paper. Ryan references YMO, which is an abbreviation for Yellow Magician Orchestra, who were a Japanese electronic music band who were popular at this time. They discuss the song Behind the Mask, which is actually quite funky. I'll be sure to put the link in the description. Around 1984, the same time the season takes place, is when the band actually disbanded to go into solo careers, which could only intensify Min's doubts about this possible career path. I believe their numbers going down hits the way it does because along with being accompanied by the song, this is a massive 75 number jump from 202 to 127. It finally feels like we're making some progress. Hopefully that progress doesn't get undone in the next episode. Oh. At least it's the best one of the season. For the people who didn't realize, the exit door opens because the party was successful, as despite everyone leaving, our group of 3 had a good time, so that's what deemed it as a success. I know this season specifically is focused on music and all, but you'd be surprised how often singing and or music appears everywhere in the show. I mean, Tulip sings, Jesse sings, Lake sings, 1-1 sings briefly, Hazel and Tuba sing, freaking Mace even sings. Amelia doesn't sing, but she does play music. Now what we need is Grace and Simon to join and we'd have a true Infinity Train ensemble. Guess the closest we're gonna get is them raiding the musical car. Ryan is singing the song Lion Tamer by the fictional artist Ridge Irvine. In the first episode of the season, Ryan actually wears a shirt that references Lion Tamer. Not sure why people know this, but at the front of the gallery it says Mind the Dawson. The Dawson is this creepy hand creature we'll be delighted to meet later in the episode. And a Dawson is a person who acts as a guide typically on a voluntary basis in a museum, art gallery, or zoo. And oh man, do we have a lot of art to discuss. I'll split it up and cover it room by room, as I figured that would be easier and less chaotic than pointing out the art in every new shot. In this first room, we have a sculpture of a giant stone tower, also known as a cairn, and another statue of what looks like an alien or deep-sea plant life. On the right is a bunch of different types of flower sculptures. When we get deeper into the room, there's what I would call wind chime art, which is actually the exit door to this car. We'll get to that later. And on the roof is what looks to be one of those images you'd find in a retro arcade. Reminds me of the game from the Lucky Cat car. Moving on, there's a sculpture of a sphere with a mesh-like structure on top of it. Later we will see a sculpture of a drum and a horn sitting on a music staff, which likely is a reference to this season's musical elements. As for the artworks on the wall, there's a fox, a mountain scene, tree scene, sidewalk scene, a lot of scenes. Then we also have a woman whose face is scribbled out, a man with an animal mask on, an alligator wearing formal old-timey clothes, a lakeside cabin, a lighthouse near an ocean, what looks to be a deformed cat stretching, and look, even Randall makes an appearance sorta. He's sitting in a sort of casing with women's clothes on, possibly a Randall-less. Then we get a forest scene along with another forest scene, a seed, a pirate ship, a plant in a pot, an artwork which looks similar to The Persistence of Memory piece by Salvador Dali, 2 women, a canyon scene, a woman with an egg for a head, a boat on a lake, some flowers, and finally some pots. Whew, we got all that?
Let me find some headphones.
Her comment makes you realize that none of these pieces have any plaques near them indicating who made them, the history behind them, or what they mean. The train probably just created them, so maybe having plaques would just be giving itself credit. Not Ryan thinking we're in Super Mario. Can't lie that car concept would be fantastic. Also, if Ryan's thought process was true, that'd make this like Worldception. If we take Kez's word that the train exists in a pocket dimension, then that would be a pocket dimension world inside a train car world inside a painting world. Huh. I think this season feels a bit frustrating for a few reasons, but one of them is the numbers. Every single time they make an inch of progress in this season, it is immediately taken away. Although it needs to be this way for Kez's story about keeping them on the train due to their numbers not going down, it leaves this season weaker overall. Like in episode 3 the numbers go down, but that is taken away by the end of the next episode and replaced by an overly cocky Min. Then they go down again in episode 5 briefly during Min's revelation only to go back up. Then we get a massive decrease in the last episode only for it to be undone yet again less than 3 minutes into this episode. And every single time it just shoots back up to 202. I'm starting to feel like Min.
202? Again?
And that could be the point to put you in their shoes, but man are their shoes annoying to be in. I think if we had an episode in between where their numbers could stay in the same place or go down again, it would make this season less frustrating to watch.
I found these headphones, but there isn't any place to plug them in.
There seems to be a lot of that in this show. When Kez goes in for a kiss, the photo behind them looks normal despite previously having the Dawson shadow taking up the bottom of the frame. In the blue room that Min enters, we can see paintings of a cat, an elephant, a group of human-like ducks, and a house. Later there's an egg creature, stone creature, palm tree, and a painting of animals which resemble the famous American Gothic painting. I'm confused because at first it seems like Min doesn't remember anything he said when being controlled by the Dawson, but a second later he references the argument they just had when he was under the Dawson's influence, and it's obvious they remember somewhat of what they say when they're being controlled as they reference it in the next episode specifically. The Dawson moves through the paintings and over to Ryan in the other room, which would originally make you believe it can only control multiple people when they are physically near each other, but then later we see how this isn't true as it can control both Ryan and Min in completely separate rooms. The red room Ryan enters has less noteworthy art, however there's a big sculpture of a snake circling a sphere in the center, as well as paintings which depict a field scene, a bunny who slightly resembles khaki bottoms, and what looks to be a man encountering a Stewart-like creature. While Ryan is looking at the snake, the Dawson twists around his body in a constricting fashion just like a snake would. Ryan hits a pot pretty hard, yet we see a moment later that the pot only landed a few inches from the pedestal. As we cut back and forth between the boys during their heated argument, the camera actually gets closer and closer, which is a cool way of showing the argument getting more and more intense. And yet again, if you didn't notice, we have the color motif of Ryan in the red room and Min in the blue room. This is a really sweet exit door idea. Kudos to whoever on the team thought of this. Really interesting how once Ryan and Kez leave the car, the train gives them a window to see what's going on inside through the door. We've never seen the train do this before. The door turns back to normal by the start of the next episode though. Some people say this is the most unsettling denizen we see in the show, but are we all just figuring about Pig Baby? Ugh. Well, we see that the Dawson seems to be constructed out of passengers' hands, presumably of the ones who never escaped this car and succumbed to this creature. Yeah, pretty creepy, Infinity Train. Simon says in episode 7 that they have the highest numbers of anyone on the train except for Amelia, but here we see that technically couldn't have been true as someone that was on the train had at least 5 rows of numbers, one more row than Grace before succumbing to the Dawson. I guess they have the highest numbers of anyone alive on the train. Well, I guess that's not true either.
It's okay, man. I'm not going anywhere. I won't leave you.
The train really said, "Wanna bet?" for a second time? It's an obvious but easy to miss detail that the door opens for Ryan to leave, but the image of Dumpty's only appears after the wormhole connecting it to the real world hits the door. Since the wormhole's connection is necessary for their return home, it's nice that the show remembered to include this detail. Without it, the door is useless. The show does a nice job showing us without words that Ryan was considering taking the exit at that moment, and because of this, his number goes down, but not all the way back to 202, as they still talked through some issues, and Ryan didn't technically take the exit entirely. Wait, I covered how the Dawson is a guide, right? Well, here the Dawson pushes him into the floor, and that's when he discovers the exit. Maybe we've all got it wrong. He was helping. The Dawson is a good guy. The train is moving once Min escapes the car, but it should still be stationary, especially as the end of the episode has the train starting to move again.
There are beds. There are sconces. There are...
Notice how Kez doesn't mention bathrooms, as technically there shouldn't be any in the castle based on Owen's comment. Seeing that Kez can just fly over this entire maze, what was the point of Morgan putting it up? It certainly doesn't keep someone like Kez out. All it does is hinder passengers from visiting, which I guess Morgan would want because she is missing Jeremy and wouldn't want to be hurt again. She literally put up walls.
Looks like somebody's been listening to my oeuvre. Working title for my first album.
An oeuvre is a body of work in relation to art, music, or literature. So on Ryan's album, we got Smile is an Upside Down Frown, We're Going Straight to the Top, My Dad's Van, later he'll have Train to Nowhere, and then possibly a spin on I'm Gonna Dress My Dog in a Toque.
My parents are looking forward to it.
Yeah, because they actually care about you. Nobody cares about me unless I'm doing something.
Well, I don't know why I'm doing anything.
I think these lines are really telling. Ryan needs this music career as his parents will only pay attention to him unless he is actively in the spotlight, while Min feels aimless because he has no dreams of his own. All his aspirations come from his parents. Ryan has big dreams as he needs to be seen, while Min has no dreams because he needs to be respected. Technically, their number should be at 115 here. At least Ryan's definitely should, since we never saw it go down after the last episode. Once again, it is another example of the show reverting their numbers back to the starting line of 202. Oh no, the villains of the week are back, ready to prove that they aren't such even though they 100% are. The group of angry denizens following Kez didn't even bother allowing the Dawson to join. He was probably too busy helping passengers. Well, actually, they most likely used Pig Toddler to move over the cars, skipping the art gallery entirely, but if this were the case, then how would they have added Nigel to their group without going through his car? But if they did go through every car on their way here, then that means they would have to go by the Dawson, which I don't believe would go very well. You can't tell me this group of has-beens and wannabes figured out that door. If you didn't get the Attack on Titan reference before, you certainly should now. The Eon Oscillator has lost its red and blue color scheme that it had in episode 2. Now it's just green and black, at least in most shots. They also got this transformation accurate with the dial going from past to future and the denizens going from lemurs to gorillas. Interesting how these moments of the denizens dying aren't usually thought of as deaths in the show because they are reversed in the next episode, but they aren't any less dead than Atticus was in the ball pit car. Just because they are villains doesn't make their deaths less important. Hashtag justice for the random angry denizen team. If the cow creamer got turned into its most basic form, technically it should be minerals and not food items, as cream pitchers aren't made of food, they are made of porcelain. Also, the parkadenists are flying, but then before they are crushed to death, they are on the floor for whatever reason. They were asking to be crushed, just standing in the right spot and everything. The storm clouds over Morgan have dissipated for some unexplained reason. What are they running on? Why are they on random platforms high above the maze? And how did they get down from the wall? So many questions. Haven't mentioned it yet, but on the back of Ryan's guitar case, there's a sticker for their band Chicken Choice Judy. Behind it is a lightning bolt, which I believe is referencing David Bowie once again. Higher up, there's a sticker for the province of British Columbia where Ryan is from. In the middle, we can see Ryan's oeuvre along with a raised fist, a razor blade, and a dolphin. I'll also mention here that his guitar is based on the look of a Montgomery Ward airline guitar. Ryan and Min would clearly be able to cross the drawbridge in the amount of time they were given, but when we cut back to them, they are still on the bridge. Min, you're a faster runner than that. I saw you in the first episode, don't fake it. The scene of Pig Toddler coming from the ground to eat Judge Morpho is a reference to the Mosasaurus scene from the movie Jurassic World.
I'd like to introduce you to my roommate, Morgan.
Is Morgan really a roommate if she is the room? After being told to act cool, Ryan makes the same hang loose sign that he made in episode 1. Min also has a massive sweat stain under his arm because Min ain't cool. Despite the denizens making a mess of the maze, it looks completely untouched in the outside panning shot.
These guys are here, huh? So you won't be lonely anymore.
That's why you brought us here?
You've been lying to us?
Nope, not doing it yet. I gotta save the Kez talk one more second. Despite this room being Jeremy's and us finding out he has been here for over a year, he really didn't make any effort to make it his own, at least aesthetically. Morgan has Jeremy's favorite food sitting out, but he left months ago. She must really be in denial about him leaving the train.
Enjoy your stay.
Nah, Morgan is creepy AF. Let me just fix that right there.
I thought she'd, stop being mad and let me come home. I mean, your numbers weren't really going down, so I thought, if you came here, you'd be able to stay together without all the hang-ups you had back home.
Okay, here we go. The Kez talk. I feel like we as viewers often give Kez a free pass for lying. At least the characters in the show do. She explains the reason for lying was that she saw that their numbers were going down and genuinely believed they could stay in the castle, which isn't the worst excuse in the world. The motivation is at least understandable, as she wanted her friend Morgan back and thought that giving her what she wanted would heal the rift between them. Plus, Min and Ryan's numbers haven't been going down all season. I've literally made a point about that, so why am I upset? Because if you remember back to the start of the season, episode 2, after leaving the very first car, Kez told the boys they should head to meet her roommate and ignore their problems. She's enacting her plan way before their numbers ever started to change. This isn't her seeing their numbers not moving and making the decision like she states. This is her actively scheming to keep them there from the moment they met. Sure, over the course of the journey they didn't make much progress, but she didn't know that when she started this whole mess. So Kez's relationship with the boys was built on a foundation of mistrust. To make matters worse, she carries this mindset into the next couple of episodes. Even after their numbers do start going down, she never wavers from the plan of making it to Morgan. Remember back in episodes 3 and 4 their numbers decreased little by little, yet Kez still went along with it and was upset when she saw it wasn't working, actually telling them not to push themselves to improve and instead take it easy. She was trying to have their numbers not go down. Episode 7 is probably one of the most egregious moments for Kez, as she actively tries to sabotage Min and Ryan's relationship.
Min's not doing so hot. You gotta support each other in times. Actually, give him some space. No need to rush anything.
Kez is actively trying to sabotage Min and Ryan here. She was about to give helpful advice, but then made the selfish decision of telling them to keep their distance and not rush into fixing the relationship. She's wanting the boys not to improve. Kez was at least originally only doing it to replace Jeremy and repair things with her best friend Morgan, who had outcasted her. But just because she had a reason for doing it doesn't make her actions right. So yes, although this lesson is one Kez was learning throughout the seasons, so a lot of this could have been intentional, I don't buy Kez's explanation that she lied because their numbers weren't going down. She was playing this long before that was a reality. Okay, ran over. Kez is quite literally floaty. It's a nice character trait ingrained into her character design as a whole. No, don't lie to me. Those park denizens should be dead.
The castle is smart and kind.
Kind? I don't know about that. Also, anyone ever wonder why Kez is the only other denizen who is alive in the entire castle besides Morgan? You can see a cool S drawn on one of the pages in Jeremy's diary, and a cool J possibly for Jeremy. On the other page, there's an entry about Kez and her mysterious power to store as many items in her mouth as she wants. Guess Jeremy was wondering about that too. We are back to pointing out paintings with this regal dog creature in the castle hallway.
He told me he was driving one night and it was super foggy and this car came at him head on because the driver couldn't see. Jeremy swerved to avoid him and crashed.
So I've heard the theory that Jeremy's accident might have been the same event that killed Amelia's fiancé Ulrich, and there's a lot of evidence to support this. For one, Jeremy seems to be English like Amelia and Ulrich based on the fact that a trilby is a hat that originated in England. We also know that Ulrich's death probably happened quickly, as in one memory Ulrich is alive and the next he is dead, with seemingly no warning. There are also a couple details in the unfinished card we can pull from, like all this medical equipment along with caution tape, which is associated with things like crashes. But for all the support for this theory, I can't deny the holes as well. Like Jeremy was living with Kez and Morgan for a minimum of 5 years before getting an exit, and although we don't know how long Amelia has been on the train by this point, I can't imagine it's been anywhere near 5 years worth of time. And Amelia boarded soon after Ulrich's death, as we saw her leave her house the night of the funeral. This time difference makes it almost impossible for the two events to be connected. However, it is a really cool theory I thought was worth bringing up. In the chaos of the steward arriving, you can actually see Kez freeze again. It's pretty clear that Amelia has full control over the train at this point, ousting one and becoming the new conductor. And we can already steadily see their ruling styles differ, as Amelia doesn't lock the passengers' boots in place when she makes an announcement, unlike one did. I feel as though the act of taking off the boots is Amelia's way of giving the power back to the passengers. It is clear she values individuality from the first train announcement, so taking off these boots is the last thing keeping them constrained. What I can't figure out though is why she blows up seemingly all the stewards of size 1. You think they would be helpful in her journey of finding orbs and keeping control over the train, possibly because she links them with 1 in his dictatorship rule, but you'd think she can just reprogram them. In all, this is almost her abandoning her duties as the conductor and letting the passengers have free reign over the train, and we see how that goes. The number shifting afterwards is also a puzzling event which I wish we had a definitive answer to. In my opinion, there are 2 logical conclusions. Either this is Amelia changing how the number system works, giving one's old system a revamp and meaning all the passengers' numbers need a subtle change, or what I think is more likely, it is Amelia resetting everyone's numbers back to the start. I imagine that after Amelia split 1, ousted him as conductor, and banished him from the engine, it left her number astronomically high. To combat this, she reset every passenger's number back to their original state, so that instead of being in the thousands, she could begin again at her starting number of 337. That would explain why the boys' numbers move but don't outright change. Once again, I'll go into this more in my theory video in the events of Book 5. Bet you didn't realize the last episode of the entire show starts on Pig Baby. It's nice how you can already tell Morgan has mellowed out since the last episode. She gives Min food and Ryan a blanket, though I guess that attitude doesn't last long. The boys reconvene in the castle's great hall, in which the vibe of the room sort of resembles Dumpty's diner in its fairy tale theming. This not only relates to the place they left from, but is also the location which the exit door drops them back off at. Min is playing the beat of I'm gonna dress my dog in a toque, which he previously was apprehensive about playing in front of people in the party car, showing how he has grown, at least a little, to not care about what others think anymore, stating how he has to practice in order to perform in New York. The keys in this shot fall weirdly. The sentiment for Min is nice though. The same imagery of Ryan grabbing Min's hand returns from episode 6 when the boys are about to play on stage, except this time their numbers actually go down and they finally play together. I waited till now to finally bring this up, but the flags in Morgan's castle are a balanced pattern between red and blue, a subtle reference to Min and Ryan's signature colors. It is used in the scene to represent them coming to a shared understanding. There are also different symbols on each colored section of the flag, possibly to show how they are still two different people, but together they make a whole. Furthermore, by the fireplace there is one blue pot and one red pot. By this point I don't have to explain the symbolism, you get it. Despite Morgan picking up all the furniture in the room as we see with the background being completely empty, a solid 8 objects are circling the group here.
I'm sorry! I tried to ignore everything, but it just keeps hurting everyone. I'm sorry.
Although I do believe Kez's apology is sincere as she states why she is sorry and she owns up to her mistakes, I do wish we had a little more accountability from her. As it stands with the short episode runtime, Kez kinda just says sorry because she has to and everyone just forgives her. Well, almost everyone. However, they do hint that there is more to it than this just being the final outcome, with the cow creamer saying an apology is always the best start and Kez stating that she needs to find a way to make it up to them. In my video on Book 5, I will once again go into this more, but I do strongly believe this plot point about Kez making up for what she did would have been explored next season. With this apology train happening, get it? I'm sorry for undercutting this emotional moment, but there's an error present with Min's number being back at 202 despite having his exit.
I had a plan with him, and now I have nothing. What was the point?
In a very weird sense, Morgan's line here ironically relates back to the show as a whole and this being the final episode. Owen Dennis and the Infinity Train team had a plan with the show, wanting 4 more seasons, but they were cut short at the knees, and now we are left with nothing after this. It leaves us possibly wondering, what is the point without a concrete ending? But Ryan's next point hits deep, because the experience was the point. Despite potentially never getting to know the final ending with characters like Kez, Hazel, Grace, and Amelia, we still have the journey to look back on and appreciate. This is so small, but I sorta wish they didn't have Ryan look down at his number here, as in my mind it now just looks like him saying what needs to be said in order for his number to go down, instead of actually meaning it. It's like he is waiting for it to count. Every single time we see an exit door open in the show, it appears top to bottom, but for some reason here it is flipped to be bottom to top. This is possibly due to the camera panning up, so having a door appear top to bottom would ruin the flow. When Ryan's door is created, you can see the background behind it get warped, but the blue pot inexplicably disappears. If Ryan was observant, he would have known that Kez's bell was indeed real as there is a sign next to her spot on the desk which reads ring for service. If passengers were originally meant to travel the train wearing only the standard passenger outfits, when would they have ever gotten their belongings back? It doesn't seem like that would fit within the train system. Their possessions are stored away while they're on the train, but when they finally earn their exit, they simply walk through the door. It's not as if they step onto Earth already wearing their original clothes. The door opens, they leave in the jumpsuits, and then it closes behind them. Unless there's some unseen mechanism that returns their belongings before the exit, it seems like the train never intended to let passengers recover their personal items before they leave. Despite not performing in New York City like Ryan had the opportunity to at the beginning of the season, I'm basing that off the fact that his train ticket specifically says New York City, they still end up performing in New York State, just at an open mic night instead. The stage they perform on has many colors featured, but it is mainly colored in purple, once again a mix of their 2 colors, showing us that they have finally fixed their flawed relationship. Min has upgraded from his mini-synth to a true keyboard. This is probably a great step for him, helping him feel like the instrument he's playing is more legitimate than the mini-synth, which he has always viewed as a toy.
5, 6, 11, 12.
5, 6, 11, 12 comes from the first episode when Min and Ryan put on their performance in front of their families.
5, 6, 11, 12.
Ryan also makes the same thumbs up after their performance from the first episode. This girl's a fake fan. She wants a cassette, but she didn't even clap when they finished performing. And despite me saying in my video on Book 2 that season had my favorite end credit music, I was actually slightly lying, because this episode actually features my favorite. Here, as we sadly reach the end of the show, it plays a shortened and instrumental version of the song Train to Nowhere. And although this episode doesn't feel like a series finale in many ways, this final send-off is truly something special. Getting to hear Train to Nowhere one final time brings a smile to my face. I can't help it! Now for the wrap-up on Book 4 as well as the show as a whole. One detail I noticed is that Book 4 is the season which visits the least amount of cars, being 6 in total, only counting main cars of course. Though even if you count the only other car we see, being the baby puzzle car, it would still be the least. This is due to the first episode not introducing a car, episode 5 and 6 being in the same car, just different parts of it, and the final 3 episodes of the season all taking place in the castle car. Due to this, we are left with titles that don't make a ton of sense. Like this isn't the party car, it's the party that's inside the Astro Q car. and this isn't the Mega Maze car, it's just the maze on the outside of the castle. Additionally, as a final wrap-up to this journey we have been on, if anyone is wondering, this is how I'd rank the seasons. Season 2 and 3 are masterpieces in my opinion, whereas Season 1 is great and Season 4 is good to sometimes fine, specifically when Min is pretentious and getting on my nerves. And that is it for Infinity Train Season 4, as well as Overanalyzing Infinity Train as a whole. If you've made it through all 4 of these mega-sized overanalyzing videos, or even if this is just the first one you're seeing, I couldn't thank you enough. Although it has been a long journey through the seasons, the videos were a blast to make, and I loved revisiting this beloved show with all of you. Along with any details you noticed in the season, I would love to hear your favorite hidden details throughout the entirety of the show's 4-season run, whether it be a detail I mentioned or not. It would be great to hear from you. If you enjoyed this series, I would really appreciate if you dropped a like and consider subscribing. As I've mentioned like 5 times in this video, I am planning on making a video where I share my thoughts on what the unreleased Book 5 could have looked like using all the knowledge we know of to construct a version of what we could have seen. Other than that, I also want to make a video on another theory I had about the Infinity Train's true purpose, which may also be coming down the pipeline in the future. With that, I'm signing off for this series. Hope to see you in a future video, or maybe somewhere on the train.